Hey, how you doing, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Powercast episode 13. And we are going to be recapping and discussing Power season 4, episode 3 today. I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How you doing, Rich?
What's up, Gary? What's up, listeners?
Cool, cool. And I'm also here with Dana Abercrombie. How are you, Dana?
Hello, I'm doing great.
Awesome. So yeah, before we get into the main discussion, I'm just going to break down the important points of what happened on this episode that you guys just watched. So yeah, this episode opens up with Julio, Dre, and Lakeisha getting scooped up for questioning. So yeah, they're all brought in for legal questioning and everything based on the case. And then we get a scene where Jamie meets Terry, and Terry is the second seat counselor for the case and for Jamie's defense. And basically, Ghost is telling Terry and Proctor that he actually got stopped by Greg, and then they realize that that's probably where the DNA came in. So we see that happening, and also he points out in a phone that they in a photo that they have that there's a suspicious looking phone in Greg's room that wasn't there when he was in his apartment. So yeah, and obviously that's the phone with all the evidence with for the rat and everything for the mole. So yeah, he points that out. And then later on, we see Angela interrogating Lakeisha. And afterwards, we see a scene where Proctor and Terry are discussing, with Lakeisha and Tasha, that Angela is actually trying to break the spouse privilege so that Tasha could be prosecuted separately. And that could put a lot of pressure on the case overall if Tasha is able to be prosecuted. And then we get more scenes where Jamie is meeting with Terry and Proctor, talking about the DNA and everything. And we also have a scene where Sandoval meets with John and Greg's friend, and he refuses to give up any evidence unless Greg is cleared of being the mole. And throughout the episode, we see different members of the task force conversating with Greg's friend, to try and get him to give up some evidence for the case that implicates Ghost and everything. And also, we see Julio asking Dre to shut down drug sales in the club, but Dre continues to push the drugs anyway because he needs the money to pay Kanan, of course. And we see the inmate Tony speaking with Ghost, and he threatens to give evidence to the prosecutor unless Jamie gets him 20,000 per week, and he specifically asks for that to be delivered by Tommy. And later on, we see James asks Proctor to find info on Tony, and also after that conversation happens, Angela actually enters the room to speak with Jamie, and she tries to get Jamie to confess, and she advises him to take the deal because it will spare his wife and children. And uh, Terry then tells Proctor that he should get Jamie to turn on Egan because it'll make things easier for him, and it helps Proctor's credibility as a lawyer. And we see Kanan, talking with Tariq, and they basically have a new scheme set up where Kanan is going to rob Tariq's schoolmates. So we see some scenes related to that happening. And then, later on, Sandoval speaks one-on-one with Greg's friend, and he confesses that the night of Greg's murder, Greg had a theory about Angela being the mole, and that he met with, Greg that night, but he tries to spin it in a way that, makes Angela seem like the mole to try and persuade Greg's friend. to, follow that lead specifically. But after Sandoval leaves, the guy pulls up his computer, he pulls up his files on Sandoval, so he's obviously suspicious of Sandoval at that point. And then later on, Proctor gives Jamie the scoop on the inmate called Tony, and he says that he murdered a man called Staletti. So Jamie instructs Proctor to get Tommy to send the money to him. And then later on, we see a scene where Proctor is in front of the judge with the prosecution, and he presents the traffic stop. He has video evidence of the traffic stop taking place, and he mentions that Angela had knowledge of that traffic stop and did not present it. And because of that, the judge says that the DNA will have to get thrown out. He actually leaves the choice up to John, because if the prosecution still wants to have the DNA in the case, then Proctor will be able to show the video and talk about the fact that they didn't mention the video beforehand, and that would make the prosecution look bad in front of the jury. So John actually, he actually wants the DNA removed at that point. So yeah, the final scene of the show, we have a tense exchange between Jamie and this new character, Terry. And, Terry's basically implying to Jamie that, he's just some thug facing the consequences of his actions. And, Jamie's kind of breaking him down and, basically saying that, Jamie didn't have any other choices. So he did what he had to do and such and such. And yeah, it's a very tense exchange there. So yeah, that's how the show ends. Compared to, the first two episodes, not as action-packed, not as crazy in terms of, the things that happen, but there's some significant things there that move the plot along slightly, so very interesting where certain plot points are going. But what's your overall thoughts on that episode, Richard?
Yeah, so I would say that pretty much agree. This episode, I believe it's just a character building episode. Obviously, still trying to deal with the news that Ghost is facing the death penalty. And we did get to see how it is impacting the kids, because I know that they had the picture they took of his daughter that ended up in their news headline. So
yeah, indeed.
It still had the dramatic element of that. So I definitely, I think it is important. I believe Dana said on the last episode, it's very important that they showcase these types of moments just so you know that things are really hitting home with the character. We also got to see more of Tariq moving closer to Kanan, or as he calls him, Slim, and that relationship. And again, we know that he is a very bad influence on Tariq, but equally Tariq is foolish for, his whole behavior is changing. We saw the exchange he had with his sister, and I believe I said this on the last episode. I will say it again, that I think he needs to be disciplined, because stuff like that, talking to your sister, giving her the middle finger, stuff like that, very, very disrespectful. But he is going through a change, so we got to see a little bit of that. And then again, just to go back to the situation with Jamie and the tape, so they were able to get some evidence thrown out there. We did see that Angela pretty much was trying to. They did come. I believe that they came to an agreement that she does not want to have to be in a position to testify because of this relationship she had with Jamie, and there's a conflict of interest with all this other stuff. So at least we do have some of the footage regarding the stop that Jamie had with Greg. I'm still hoping that they will dive further into what actually happened that night. Maybe they can see where Jamie was at when all this went down. But up until this point, yeah, not really, I think the main thing with the episode, as you already said, we got to meet this new character that is now a part of the case as well. And, he has clashes with Jamie. Made it very clear when he did talk to him that, he sees through his facade. So he's not really, I mean, even though Jamie could be innocent, and we of course as an audience knows that he is innocent. The big issue here is that this other guy sees through him as, you know, a thug, tough type of guy who does underhanded stuff, trying to change his way and do good things, but he sees through him. So I'll be very interested to see how that relationship develops over time. But that tension at the end lets me know that it may be some other things that happen as we get deeper into the season between those two characters, if they have further disagreements. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's exactly my thoughts. Like, because you know, he was kind of really randomly introduced in this episode. Like, you know, all of a sudden he's just there. So, and yeah, that final scene just goes to show that there's probably going to be a lot of tension, a lot of friction with those characters moving forward. Dana, what do you feel? What are your thoughts on this new character, Terry?
I don't know what to think about him, and I think that is the whole purpose and the whole point. I think they threw him in there so quickly that it probably throws us off. I like the idea, aside from how they introduced him, everything else, the pacing seems to be very well, and it shows that the writers have control of the material that they want to put out there, and everything is not going to be rushed. Compared to the previous episodes, this is more of a slowed down version of things. And I think it's also to piggyback on what Gary was saying, not Gary, I'm sorry, Richard was saying, was that because of the slowing down, everything is going to be set up. And we're going to have one of those climactic scenes eventually. But by him being introduced so quickly, it kind of puts you off of the whole game. You don't know what's expecting, and it kind of puts you in the shoes of the other characters. You don't exactly know what's going to go on with him. Also, I want to piggyback a little bit of what Richard said about the son. I'm sorry. Yes, he deserves to have a little slap every now and then, but I think it's a much larger picture. And I like the fact that he is acting out. And I don't really see it as being like the stereotypical acting out kid. Again, he's going through a lot of different emotions. And if you look at the behavior and psychology of men overall in general, they're not very expressive. So by him always tormenting his sister, by him turning to Kanan, it's showing that he, in his life right now, he doesn't seem to have much direction. He doesn't feel that he can trust the people that he thought he knew, because now his father's in prison, and it's for a lifestyle that he never even knew that his father had. So he's turning to Kanan, who is more of aggressive character, because he's looking for something probably to connect to. He sees that aggression probably in himself. So yes, he is doing wrong, but at the same time, his actions to me are very realistic. It's not that stereotypical whiny kid. So I love it from what they're doing.
Yeah, I do like the complexity of you know, Tariq's character and everything. And it, you know, it's a very real situation, you know, when a child doesn't, you know, he's kept in the dark about his parents' lifestyle, you know, the consequences of that can be quite detrimental. And that's what we're seeing with Tariq's character. So I definitely like that.
And I think overall it piggybacks on the message that everything is done in secret. Ghost has this whole separate double life. You know, the wife knows certain things but isn't privy to everything, and the kids are in their own little world. And if you look at the show
Yeah,
overall, it's about that duality and what happens to it when it collides. So I think Tariq is a very great grounding point for all of this. He's, to me, he's like the overall message that the show is trying to create.
exactly. I do feel like he's going to get into a lot of trouble this season because, you know, with that scheme they seem to have set up where seems like Kanan is going to be, you know, knocking off his friends, well, his schoolmates' houses and stuff.
Absolutely.
Like they're going to be able to trace that back, you know, like after a while, after a few of those robberies, they're probably going to do the math and
Absolutely.
figure out where it's coming from.
And and Tariq will be the downfall, I feel, for Ghost. And Kanan is extremely smart by using him and seeing that vulnerability. So I'm
Yeah.
unfortunately I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, for sure. In this episode, we also saw a bit, well, it wasn't really like friction or, tension or anything like that, but we saw some kind of some interesting scenes regarding Julio and Dre, because there was a scene where after the interrogations and stuff, Dre is talking with Tommy, and he actually lets on that Julio was in the interrogation room longer than he was, so he's kind of trying to play a psychological game and put it in Tommy's mind that Julio might be snitching. So do you feel like these two characters are really going to clash at some point, and what effect do you feel that may have on things if that happens? Go ahead, Rich.
Oh yeah, I think well, we saw a bit of this not just in tonight's episode, but also the previous episode. There is this growing tension within Tommy's group, and Dre is obviously trying to do his thing with the club, also trying to manage the drug thing. But the fact that he was adamant not to stop doing this stuff, even though definitely shows that there is going to be a lot of tension among all these guys, and obviously, Tommy thinks that he can control Dre because he does know that, he confronted Dre about where Tariq was earlier this season, and of course, I think he kind of thinks that Tommy knows that maybe Dre is full of it. Sometime he won't try to tell him everything, but he feels as though he still can try to manipulate and control that. And at the same token, Julio and a lot of the other people, they also think that they do have some level of power. So I feel that it all is going to crash and collide at some point. One thing I did want to say is that, and I believe Dana said this last week, that Dre could very well be a character that is very calm and could be plotting against the others. We do see a bit of that, how he is playing both sides against each other. Even though they are on the same team, he is trying to create some conflict. But yeah, he very well could be the one who definitely has a lot that he does plan and does have coming down the pipeline. So we have to see what happens with that character. But for now, as I said last week, the character is a little vulnerable in regards to Kanan, because Kanan does know he has that daughter. And I feel as though unless he knows that she is safe, that she's nowhere near any of the stuff that's going on, and that Kanan doesn't know where she's at, I feel as though that's always going to be something that he's going to have to worry about now. So he can't really try to screw over Kanan yet. But this may have to come later at some point, because he is in the middle right now of everything that's going on. And we'll see what happens with Julio. I like the character. I'm glad that the character has taken a bit of a different role this season, stepped up into another, like a much more power type of role. But I definitely feel with all those egos together, something is bound to happen that is going to cause some issues. So I'm just curious to see what happens. And then we already know how dangerous Tommy is from the last episode. So we'll have to see what happens and whether or not he's going to be able to keep the situation under control. But I don't think he is going to be able to keep everything under control, unfortunately. But we'll see.
Yeah, it kind of goes to show what really happens when Ghost isn't around, because you have all these big egos, Tommy, Julio, Dre, and there's no one there to kind of be the gel to hold them together. So it seems like they're kind of playing off against each other a little bit, and things are going to get chaotic in that regards. But Dana, do you have any thoughts on that between Julio, Dre, and the Tommy situation?
I just want to say that I'm declaring it right now that I'm right. Dre is slowly putting in those little whispers to Tommy, and Tommy's gonna run around and start being reckless, and then Dre is gonna do it to everybody else. And so everyone else is gonna be battling everybody all at the same time, and they're gonna be distracted with each other so that Dre can come and rise to the top. He will literally be the last man standing. So I was right about that. And we're starting to see that now. And I am so frustrated that Tommy is so stupid to not actually realize this. He's playing this really one-dimensional, like, how much of an idiot can you be to actually keep, he reacts too much. He doesn't think. To me, I don't really see him as much as of a thinker that much. And that is why he's really easy to be manipulated right now. So
yeah,
I don't exactly see him getting any smarter unless somehow someone steps in from the outside and is able to put it all together and to tell Tommy before in advance. But Tommy's dumb. I'm sorry. So Tommy is going to basically be that puppet to Dre and not even know it. So I think it's genius. It's great on his end. Tommy is just stupid. And it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. But I think that storyline itself is going to be very straightforward.
yeah. It's interesting you say that actually, because when you really think about it, Dre is kind of like a mini Ghost in the making, like, a mini James St. Patrick, because he's a street dude, but now he's kind of crossed over and he's running the club right now and everything. So it's like he kind of is a mini Ghost when you think about it. And he does have quite a bit of he's in like a very good position right now because he has influence in the drug game that's going on, and he's running the club completely right now. So yeah, it's interesting to see Dre's character play out. Go ahead.
And I have a random theory. It's gonna be crazy. The mysterious prisoner who knows Ghost may have been a setup from Dre.
Woo!
Woo!
That's I was actually going to get to the inmate next, so elaborate on that.
I just feel that in order to keep Ghost distracted right now, even though he's in prison and that in itself is an isolation, but to keep him truly distracted, why not? I don't know still how this guy is related, but why not get this guy, or even if he is blood related, contact him. The guy's already in prison, and somehow have them hash it out between Ghost and this mysterious guy. And then that way, while he's being distracted, I don't know, with his memories of their relationship, however it plays out, Dre is busy taking over the outside and the underworld. So that by the time, if Ghost gets released, he's too busy to realize what exactly happened so they can ambush him.
Yeah, it's an interesting theory, but we did get a scene last week with Tony, the inmate, and he was talking to his lawyer, and he was trying to find out more information about James St. Patrick and stuff. So I don't know about that because he was, if Dre was the one to plant him, then surely he would have gave him all that information.
No one. Dre could be extremely smart, and you can't find the information until it's too late. Don't knock Dre. Don't knock what people will do. It could work.
Yeah, I mean, anything's a possibility at this point. But getting on Tony, the inmate, so we find out he's apparently part of this guy's murder, this super gangster or whatever, this kingpin. He was a part of his murder, and Jamie's asking about that. And obviously Tony, he's trying to blackmail Ghost at this point to get the money for his wife. So how do you feel like this situation is going to play out? Because now we have Jamie trying to get information on Tony. He's agreed to pay at the moment, but how do you think this whole thing is going to play out, and why is Tony asking for Tommy to deliver the money? I mean, I guess this plays into the theories we were talking about last week as well. But go ahead, Rich. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just think that the whole reason all of this is going down is definitely to just see, maybe to get a confirmation to see who this Tommy character is. He hasn't really. I don't think he's ever really seen the character. So this is just maybe there are others that know him that he think might know Tommy. I mean, I'm not 100% sure about that particular aspect, but just to answer the original question of how he thinks that he knows him, or what, or rather why all of this is going down, or how we think Ghost is going to deal with it. I know a lot of people had confidence in the beginning before this season started that, oh yeah, Ghost will get out of jail immediately. He'll get out of jail at like the first episode, maybe the second episode. I'm confident that he'll eventually get down to, now that he knows that this guy was involved in a murder, he may try to blackmail that guy in return and, you know, pretty much clear himself of that responsibility. I think that's possible. But I mean, it's too hard to really tell how the situation is going to go. But I don't really think Ghost. I think that is the least of his concern at the moment. The bigger issue is him trying to clear his name and get out of this case trial, get off death row at the current moment. So I feel like all this other little stuff is not really something that's going to be a little too much of a strain. But, you know, we'll have to see what happens as things progress with the storyline. One other quick thing I wanted to say before you move on to Dana, though, what you said about Dre potentially being involved or connected to that other guy. I mean, I think anything is possible with the storyline. But I would say I would not rule out that this guy could be connected to some of the other characters. Whether it is Jukebox or even Kanan to a degree. Only, you know, and maybe it could be something whereas, you know, we know that Jukebox is a cop, you know, obviously. But what's to say that maybe she didn't bring him in? She didn't arrest him and bring him in. You know, what I'm basically just saying is that these characters are somewhat connected. Not just the fact that Tommy is connected to this character, but he could be connected to other characters. So I like the theory that he could be connected to other characters. We have to see, though. But obviously, Dre, definitely something will happen with Dre's character because, again, from a person that's looking on the outside at the situation, the only indication I see so far is that this is a character that is pretty much in the middle right now. That's how they want it to be perceived by the viewer. He's in the middle. He's in a very tight bind, but again, he could be smarter than that. We just have to see how the storyline progresses and see what ultimately happens when he has to make a choice. But good theories, but we have to see how everything pans out.
Yeah, what I'm thinking with Tony as well is that, you know, clearly this guy's been involved with the mob, you know, like, you know, Italian mafia, whatever. So like, and we know that that's a powerful organization when it comes to crime, you know. I feel like maybe he could even orchestrate some moves to where they interfere with the drug trade, you know, and maybe even take it over, you know, like I think that's possibly something that could happen down the line, maybe, perhaps, especially with Tommy being involved in this situation now, with him having to, you know, deliver the drugs and stuff, the money and stuff. So yeah, I feel like that could be a possibility to where, you know, Tony gets involved in the drug trade. But
yeah, that's very likely.
We'll
very good point.
Yeah. So Dana, any thoughts on, you know, Tony and how things played out this episode with him?
Well, in regards with the whole blackmailing situation, I don't think he should give into blackmailing because once you do that, it never goes away. It just opens you up to more and more, basically more blackmail. I kind of liked your theory with the whole mob thing, and Tommy is now being, you know, gonna have to be used by this new, like the mob, basically. And I never thought about it before, but having some sort of like a drug war with like rival different drug wars with this season would be great. And again, it goes to show Tommy's not gonna make this out alive at all. So
You don't think he's making it out alive?
No, it's just too
What you
many
mean? Do you mean this season or like in the end?
in this season. I mean, if it's the possibility that you're saying where there could be some type of drug war situation going on,
Mhm.
I don't really see him making it out. And plus, he's stupid. So no, but I think that it will have some type of, oh, when Ghost does get out, or if he does get out, he will be so confused about everything. The real start thing I'm looking forward to is how Ghost will react to everything if he's freed. Right now, that's not his priority.
Yeah,
But I
exactly. Yeah,
think that if that's not his anything, literally, it could be a drug war, it could be somebody, a crackhead shooting up everyone. That's not his priority. His priority is getting out of prison and being free and being with his family, which is a whole nother dynamic in itself, right there, with the relationship that he has now with how the family is going to treat him. But I don't see any. Tommy's just stupid. I have no feelings for Tommy at this
yeah,
point. And it could also be interesting if Dre is the one who is somehow manipulating the whole drug war thing. Never count out Dre.
yeah. We can't count him out. He seems somewhat calculated, so he could be pulling some strings for
He's
sure.
smarter than
But
Tommy, which doesn't really say much, but he's
oh
smart.
yeah, yeah, indeed. And now that you mention, Jamie getting out, like, and finding things in a mess, I feel like one of two things might happen when Jamie finally, well, if and when he finally gets out. Um, I feel like either he's going to be in such bad shape because, like, after this case, he's probably not going to have a lot of money left, to stand on. Because they probably would have seized all his money, his assets. They might shut down the club, maybe, or bar him from being involved in the club completely. And I feel like a lot of stuff is going to be messed up for Jamie if and when he gets out. So he might then want to get back into the drug game to, keep himself afloat. But things are going to be so messed up from, everything that's happened that he's probably going to have to try and fix a lot of stuff and start from scratch, basically. Or I feel like if he does get out, I feel like Tommy and maybe Julio and the other guys, I feel like their lives are going to be in danger from what's happening in the drug trade, and Jamie is going to have to try and save them somehow. So yeah, I feel like there's going to be a lot for Jamie to address and face if and when he does make it out, and I don't think it's going to be as simple as him
But do you think
just
that this
coming
could
home
have
and
such a sorry?
no, carry on.
Do you think that this could have such a huge impact on him that he may not want to return back to the the drug trade at
I, f-
such a large capacity? Because he has
I
more
feel
to
like
lose than he has to gain.
he probably doesn't have a choice though, like because I don't know if it's probably not going to be so easy for him to reclaim the club. I don't know, like that's just me thinking. Because I mean, it feels like this case is going to rip him apart completely, like family wise and professional wise. And his name is going to be dirty after this. Like even if he beats the trial, people are probably going to associate him with a cop's murder, and they probably won't want to work with him on a professional level. Like we saw him make that deal at the end of last season with Karen. I don't feel like that's going to be in place anymore, if he gets out. So I feel like at some point he may not have a choice. He may have to kind of go back to the crime life. And especially with Kanan floating around, like we don't know what's going to happen with that. We don't know if Kanan's going to be revealed at some point, and if and when he is revealed, or if and when he is a direct threat, Jamie's going to have to handle that as well. So I feel like he's going to be forced back into a life of crime, I think.
This is all very depressing.
Yeah, it's a
He worked
harsh
so
reality.
hard.
Well, Gary,
Now he's gonna be
Well, Gary, all you have to do is say that he basically has become his name, Ghost, because now he has to disappear into a life. You know, he had a great life where he had the club, he had the woman that he wanted, and he had his side. Yeah, he had his wife also. So you know, he tried to have it all, but you know, you can't have it all in this world like that without there being some consequences. So yeah, it's definitely gonna be rough for him once this trial is over. There ain't no doubt about that. But
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
yeah, man. Like it seemed like the first half of or the first few episodes really of season 3, it was kind of Jamie living his perfect life because, like, you know, he was with Angela, he was running the club, he was out of the drugs and everything, but that quickly changed, you know, that quickly turned around. So yeah, I feel like he's not going to be able to escape the life of crime, and that's just the sad reality of it, I guess. And I guess that kind of, you know, ties into what Terry was saying, where, you know, the consequences of his actions. That's, you know, that's what's taking place here. Even though I think Terry is a coon, but yeah, there's some truth to what he said there.
Oh, wait a second. So why? So what are your issues with Terry? Exactly.
My issue with him is like, how are you just gonna assume that, you know, he did it? Like, you know, he's walking in there like he knows everything, you know, just because he has a privileged lifestyle. You know, he was able to get the money to go to school, get his law degree, pass the bar exam, whatever. Like, you know, you can't just walk in there and judge the man. Like, you're hired to defend this man.
No,
So why are you making judgments about him? Like,
that's
you
the
know,
whole purpose. No, you've
huh?
never heard of classism?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah,
I've
that's
heard of it.
exactly what he's doing. There are plenty
But
of
like,
people who even defend those who are like, oh yeah, I'm better than him.
it's not like you've been hired to defend this man. What? Who are you to
Doesn't
judge him?
matter.
Like,
People, they may be hired because of the money, but how you really think and your morals of certain things are
exactly.
way
That's why he's a coon though, because like he's willing to, you know, just shit on another brother for the money.
No,
Money.
he has bills to pay. Is he not supposed to eat?
Yeah, he is. I'm not knocking that. Like, he's got a job, he's got a good job and everything, but like he should be humble. He should be proud
No,
for the lifestyle that he has,
okay.
and he should respect the person he's defending.
No,
especially because it's another brother.
No, this is exactly why he acts this way, because it's another brother. There are people who are minorities, who look down at other minorities, who have not made it as successful as them. They view themselves as, well, if I can do it, he can do it. He views him as the other. I'm not associated with him. And that breaks down everything with classism within the own African-American community. That I love that they incorporated that.
I mean, yeah, I like that they I like, don't get me wrong, I like that they incorporated it in the show because it's very real and that does happen. But I'm just saying I don't like it. Like, I don't like, you know, him for doing that. But I like that it's in the show though.
Yeah, but that's not the thing to nitpick over.
I'm not nitpicking, I'm just saying I don't like his character. That's all. It's okay to not like a character.
Yeah, no, it's okay to not like the character, but yeah.
Because the thing is, I like shows that don't have likable characters, to be honest. Like, because it tells a real story.
So you like him because you don't like him?
No, I like the show because I don't like him.
But you secretly like the character because it's complex like that.
No, man. He's bad and bougie without the bad part. He's just bougie. He's bougie. Oh, that's what he is.
Well, yeah, the complex characters are definitely necessary to it really it gives them a little bit more visibility, you know, shows some of their human side to be vulnerable to certain things, and then it just gives you different perspectives of how they are, whether it's good or bad. But yeah, the character exists to challenge Jamie, to try to get him to understand that you have to, you know, like when you go in front of the judge or whatever, this goes to trial, you need to be ready for this. So I guess it's a little bit of tough love, but yeah, the character is a bit of a, you know, uptight, maybe thinks that he is better to some degree, but yeah, I guess this is needed though, again, to remind Jamie that, listen, you know, you're in this situation now, you need my help, so you have to cooperate with me, but you also have to deal with the way that I treat you as well, and just have to see how you deal with everything. But we'll see what happens.
But could you also not view it in the sense of he sees this other brother, this African American guy who has opportunities, and instead he decided to be a drug kingpin.
But that's the whole point. That was Jamie's point. He didn't have opportunities. That Jamie's point was that he didn't have those opportunities. He had no parents.
Opportunities, but somehow, through some way, there are people who can succeed in the exact same environment. But instead, that stereotype that overall brings down the African American community. So therefore, that could be that bougie resentment that he has towards him.
Okay, but the way I see it is like this guy, he had opportunities, he had support, you know, he had his parents, you know, he had people to support him through his studies and everything. Jamie didn't have that, but we know that Jamie now wants to get out of the life of crime and go legitimate. So he just went a different way. He used what was available to him to get to the same point in his life where he wants to just be a decent human being. He just had to go about it a different way.
But there are plenty of people who were in Jamie's shoes who did not take that route, and they still became successful.
And those are the, you know, those are the ones who deserve to rot in prison because they didn't change up their life, you know.
And there were ones who did change up their lives and didn't choose the drug path at all.
And you got to remember that Jamie's innocent. He didn't commit the crime that he's been convicted for.
But he committed so many other crimes. So to say yes, he's innocent in that aspect, but he's really not.
So you know what that guy said?
Yeah, I'm not trying to say that Jamie's innocent at all, but like I feel like he doesn't deserve those judgments that are being thrown at him because he's actually trying to change. So
yeah, but how long did it take him to actually change? He wasn't changing before, you know, people started being killed. He changed after the fact that he has a death penalty, and now he's realizing his own mortality and what he's done to his family.
No, he tried to change before that.
Yeah, but if you really wanted to change, you could change, but he didn't change. He didn't fully change.
Yeah, well, we'll agree to disagree there, but I am interested in hearing what the people listening think of that, because it's a very real argument, and I like that we had it as well. And you know, with Terry, like I think I'm more so scared that he's gonna mess up the case somehow as well. Like I'm scared that he's gonna mess it up for Jamie somehow. So that's another thing. That's another reason why I don't particularly like him.
Well, there's another way to look at that also, because I mean, they did mention that he is a very well-known lawyer, so his career and reputation is on the line also. So I feel as though he does definitely have to test Jamie and make sure that, listen, you know, if you mess this up, we both look bad. So I'm going to put you through the ringer and make sure that you are ready for this. That's one of the positive ways to look at the situation. But yeah, I am interested in hearing what the people think about this particular topic, because, you know.
Yeah, but before we end off that discussion, I want to get what you think of that, Rich. What you think of that whole argument that we just had.
Well, you know, I just think that I have to agree that I am glad they put it in the show. I mean, I'm glad they put a lot of this stuff in the show because it makes it a lot more realistic. You know, we do know that there's a lot of situations where, you know, a lot of Black people do put each other down. They would think some are a certain way, you know, and they treat them a certain way. So I understand that dynamic. I just think, you know, and right now this character is he just wants to test Jamie. We know his characters. He did not kill Greg, but he is guilty of other things that he has done. He just took a different path, and it's not really. I think the whole thing about whether or not it's his fault, that I think that is subject to anyone can say it either is or isn't his fault. But I do believe what you said, Gary, is true. Obviously in life he took a different path. We don't really know the severity of why he took that path. Like, we don't really know if he had a father, if the father went out of his life, or if he also had a bad influence. Well, we do know Kanan definitely was a bad influence. At any point, he could have maybe walked away from that relationship and tried to do something positive and constructive with his life. But again, we don't really know the severity of how his past was, because they didn't really dive deep into that. Well, we didn't get any flashbacks of Ghost as a kid to see how things were, so we don't know that. We do know he could have taken some other paths, but we don't. But again, unless you were in that situation, it's hard to really determine whether or not he could have taken that path. All we know is that he did what he had to do. Now he's trying to get out of the game. And it's good that he is trying to make the changes, but we already know that whenever you are associated with something negative, sooner or later you have to face that again, one way or another. And most of the times it is as a test. So I do think that while he did not commit the crime, I think some of the questioning and breaking it down, some of that stuff is needed for the character to really get, for something to happen to the character. Because again, I really don't think that they would kill off Ghost unless, of course, the show was over, because that would make no kind of sense. But you do have to show, because if you think about every season before this one, Ghost is just always, he's been portrayed as always being a step ahead of everything that's going on. And then we started to see that fall apart last season. So you have to see the character does have to pay in one way or another. So I just think all of this is used to build him up, to get him ready for the case. Because again, this other guy, Terry, his reputation is on the line as well if he doesn't do a good job. So I think this character is just trying to break him down. But ultimately, as I said, I just think that this whole situation is an interesting conversation. It can go either way. I'm glad that they put it out there, because this is stuff that people deal with on a regular basis in different circles. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what others have to say about it. I'm not really sure where I stand on this particular argument at the moment. I can see positives and negatives on both sides, but we'll see what happens.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. We'll see.
That's fair play. But yeah, I like that we had that discussion though. But the last topic I wanted to touch on was about Greg's friend, who was kind of brought into the show. Now we know that Greg, last season Greg had different conversations with this guy, and now I guess the prosecution is trying to use him and whatever evidence and insight he has to incriminate Jamie and Tommy further. So it's interesting that he's been brought back into it, and he alludes there's a scene in there where a member of the prosecution team, the task force, I can't remember his name, I always forget his name, but he visits the judge and he says, hypothetically, if we had an audio that incriminates James St. Patrick and Tommy for the murder of Lobos, how would that play in court, considering that it's through an illegal CI? So basically he wanted to use that evidence under an illegal CI, and the judge he isn't having any of it. Like, he doesn't want that to play in his court, because if it's a CI that's not registered on the books, then it's gonna be total chaos to bring that into the case. But yeah, like, the emergence of Greg's friend, this character, is a big deal, and he obviously knows some things that may even lead to Sandoval being exposed. So how do we feel things are going to play out with his character and how significant is he going to be to the case moving forward, do you think? Do you have any thoughts on that, Dana? You're muted, by the way.
Oh, sorry. I don't know, honestly, but I do think that by posing that hypothetical question, we can end up seeing a lot of things from the past come up again. And I don't really know, because it was something that I really wasn't expecting as well. But I do, I don't know. I can't
Yeah, it
fully
was
formulate,
unexpected.
but it's definitely going to come back up again. And I like how you
Yeah,
posed that question. It gave you a lot to think about, and whether or not they'll fully plan on doing it out. Because I think there's a lot that's going to happen this season. It could end up happening for next season. It's just a lot of different things.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of loose threads, you know. There's a lot of
And if they
different.
tighten everything up in this one season, what exactly are we going to look forward to by the next season?
That's a good point. Rich, you got any thoughts on that? On Greg's friend and everything, and how that might play out?
I don't see things ending well for Greg's friend because it's a matter of he is trying to build a case against Tommy and Ghost. He also wants to get Greg's name cleared as in the whole situation. But I just feel like it's a very dangerous situation for him to be in because if the wrong people find out about what he's doing, I don't think that'll be good for him. It's a very interesting dynamic to try, and I'm a little surprised that the judge wouldn't entertain that opportunity, even though it would be done illegally. Because one thing we do know about this show is that a lot of the law enforcement people, such as Greg and Angela, they go above and beyond to do stuff, no matter how dangerous or dirty it is. So I was surprised that the judge didn't say, well, yeah, I think maybe we can use that evidence. But he said, no, I don't want to have nothing to do with that. That was very interesting because, I guess they wanted to show that the way the system is, some stuff does happen, other stuff doesn't happen. So it ain't all a situation where everyone will do whatever they have to do to actually get over, which is interesting in and of itself. But I think that character is, and that he knows a lot of information. He has access to files. I'm just saying, if the wrong people get a hold of that information, something could happen to that character. So I'll be very curious to see what happens with that whole dynamic. But it's interesting to see him resurface again. I figured maybe he would resurface again because he knew about Greg, and this is the only person that really is fighting for Greg. Angela, she is conflicted now. She wants to fight for Greg, but she still is, trying to convince herself Jamie is a horrible person. He killed Greg. So, but she has a lot of issues. Whereas this character is 100%. He doesn't care about Angela. Maybe he will work with her in some capacity, but he just wants to clear Greg. So we have to see how that happens. But he's a very, very vulnerable situation right now, I would say. He needs to be very careful who he talks to and who he decides to trust.
Yeah, I completely agree.
He's about staying alive right now.
What? Wait, what was that? Say that again.
Angela should worry about just staying alive right now.
I really wish Dana was involved in the show because, every character would be would be getting mucked. But was you going to say something else?
Yes, the fact that it was a hypothetical, I don't exactly. It leaves a lot of things to even wonder if they're going to actually go through with this. It could just be something that he's thinking about. It doesn't really have to come into play.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
Yeah, so not everything should be taken at verbatim. Everything could just be a thought and idea. It could actually happen right now or something down the line. But I don't even view this as being a threat. I just view this as, I had that one thought. How do you guys feel about that? And then you It's not something that you focus on right away, because to actually clear his name and then to worry about your own self, because like you said, other people can get a whiff of what's going on, and then you're going to be dead too. Just so I'm not even taking it seriously. I just take it as a passing conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, cause he's definitely playing a dangerous game, and if he does have evidence that incriminates Jamie, Tommy, and he clearly has some sort of files on Sandoval as well. So um he's in a dangerous place if he does have evidence on these characters, and if he can piece together what really happened with the murder as well. A lot of characters will want to get to him. And he has a lot of things of value as well if he has all these files and stuff and all this evidence. So I think it's going to be significant somehow. In what way, I'm not sure. But yeah, I feel like it has some significance.
But he has too much evidence. And when you have too much of something right now, and you hold the cards to everybody and you know everything that's really going on, you're a threat. So he could have that evidence, but he can easily be taken out because of that evidence. There could easily be a mole that's in the court. I don't know. Just another theory. That could know about the conversation, and he's, being taken out, and that evidence is going to be destroyed.
Oh, we already know there's a mole in the court because remember Proctor, he had that dude that told him what was going on. So
you got that. You can't have hypothetical conversations and you have evidence about everybody. It's not going to work out. It's not even smart to even bring up. Either just present everything, but don't hypotheticalize anything at all.
Yeah.
So he's dead too.
Yeah. Everyone's dead. Yeah, so I mean, like those are the main points I wanted to bring up from the episode. But if you guys have any important points that you wanted to bring up as well, let it be known. Rich, you got anything?
I may have something, but I'm gonna let Dana go first if Dana has something.
Okay, Dana, you got anything for me?
No, right now everything just seems to be a waiting game and a lot of different theories that I have no idea if they're even going to come true. But I am still looking forward to the next episode and seeing how that pans out. I hope not every episode is as fast as it is previously. I hope everything is paced out and it takes its time. So we'll see. But so far, I'm still pleased.
Awesome. There
also seems to be one little thing that I'm a little bit worried about. There's too many things going on at the same time. So I wish that everything could be fleshed out, or maybe, not necessarily tossed aside, but just fleshed out more, because there's a lot of different plot points and a lot of different storylines.
Yeah, it really does. It's really starting to remind me of The Wire more and more each season, because
the difference though with The Wire was that it was able to take a whole season and focus on something different while slowly incorporating different things. But this just seems to be everything is coming at you all at once.
Yeah, but the thing with The Wire and why I think it's similar is because in The Wire, it's like every single scene in that show was significant and it meant something to a plot point. Like, and this isn't as complex and as in-depth as The Wire, but like it's starting to get to that level for me where like it seems like everything that's happening in each scene has some significance to the outcome. So yeah, it is, and like you said, it is starting to be a lot, because now we have a lot of new characters this season as well, and we don't know the significance that they're going to play. So yeah, it is starting to be slightly overwhelming, but I'm still enjoying it. It's still fun to watch, so I can't complain too much right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, very good points. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Nelly Mac 91, because he commented last week and he had brought up a point that I wanted to ask you guys about very quickly. We kept having this discussion about we think that Tariq should be disciplined, and I know I had made a comment on YouTube that says Sandoval and Tariq both need to have their asses whooped. Well, he responded to that. He said, no, Ghost needs to find out that Sandoval is the mole so he can use him to protect Tommy and himself from law enforcement. Sandoval is better as an asset to them instead of as a prisoner. So I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about that, because that's a very interesting point. I just wanted to get what your opinions are on that particular topic.
Yeah, shouts to Nelly Mac for that. That's a very interesting point, and you know, that could definitely, it's definitely valid somewhat. But my theory on that, like my thinking on that, is that that's only a possibility once Jamie gets out, and you know, if it all depends on if Sandoval is discovered before Jamie gets out, like because if you know once Sandoval's discovered, that's it. Like he's done. He's not going to be part of law enforcement anymore. So if and Sandoval getting discovered might be crucial to Jamie getting out in the first place. So it all depends on how that plays out. Because if Jamie somehow manages to get out without Sandoval being exposed, then and Jamie discovers that it was Sandoval, then yeah, I can see that happening, because then they can blackmail him and use him. But I feel like Sandoval getting exposed is crucial to Jamie getting out, and I feel like Jamie doesn't really have any leg room to blackmail Sandoval while he's in prison. So that's my only thinking with that. But
very good point.
What are your thoughts?
That's a good point as well. It's a big if, and I like the theory, I like the idea, but I don't think that it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely, like, I would like to see that play out. Like, that is something I would like to see. Like, I would like to see Sandoval in that position where he's getting used by Jamie and Tommy. But in this scenario, it seems like Sandoval has to take a fall for Jamie to get out. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. Unless Tommy gets to him, without Jamie. Like, maybe that can happen. I don't know. But yeah. That's my only thinking with it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, appreciate the comment. Anything could happen. This is the season of unpredictable stuff. Although there will be some stuff that we probably will figure out, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, so far another good episode. I don't know if I would say it was better than the last two episodes, but I feel like it is building to a better storyline, and I think that the next couple episodes could be very, very interesting. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's it for now. We'll definitely be back next week. You guys, you can subscribe to the show on iTunes if you like your podcast delivered to your phone. You can find us on iTunes and on the podcast app. There's also an RSS feed. I'll put all those links in the YouTube description and the post on the actual website. So definitely check that out, and make sure you check out all of our other content at thecoalition.com as well. We have a lot of entertainment stuff happening thanks to Dana. So be sure to, take a look at the site and see if there's anything else you like on there. But yeah, for now, that's it. We're out. See ya.
See you next week.